who commutes to work and is tired of taking hours out of his or her life for doing that. Turner, thank you.
Sure. Welcome.
And Turner's the person who's provided the link for us. Turner, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Turner Bledsoe.
I'm glad we turned on the meeting is recorded.
Yep.
I don't know if everybody saw, but we have a local TV station to use for climate issues. And so I'll record this tonight and then let people know that they can watch it during the next month or so. So be on your best behavior. So Turner, can you, we've got 3 stars right here. So go ahead, explain who you are.
Oh, I'm just an old guy.
Oh yeah, right. That means you've got lots of experience.
Yeah, Joan and I, and she's in the corner here, way back founded the South Shore Node, and lots of good things have come from that.
Tanya and Patrick might not know what South Shore Node means.
Yeah, well, 350 Massachusetts was a Bill McKibben's organization born in Massachusetts, came to Massachusetts. Craig Altomos was starting about the time we started the node, and we joined their campaign and have been doing good stuff with 350 Massachusetts ever since. And good stuff has come from it. So we've made progress in Hingham. We've got, and as we've gone along, we got involved with Sustainable South Shore, and that's a very exciting things are going on now. So we've got Hingham Net Zero grew out of our South Shore node, thanks to Laura Burns.
And did you know what that is?
Yeah, we're watching that closely.
And Patrick, do you know what Hingham Net Zero is?
I have an idea, but not exactly, no.
Well, so Hingham Net Zero was organized to help Hingham make a commitment to get to net zero carbon emissions through developing a climate action plan. And we succeeded in convincing the selectmen running the town to support that. The Energy Action Committee, which had been going on for a number of years, put together a plan. It passed our town meeting this last spring and is on the way. It's very exciting.
Excellent.
So you'll hear a lot more about that from Laura Burns when she talks about it. We got things rolling, and they're rolling.
Very good. So Judith,
Yes.
The South Shore Local Clean Energy Checklist.
Yes.
Are we going to discuss that at tonight's meeting or no?
No, not really. I just
Okay.
wanted people to have access to it.
So I'm going through the list, and we need to amend Plymouth on several.
I think that's probably true for everyone.
Okay.
But
I'd
that's
like-
something that it's paperwork. We can do it, after this and then share it.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce Eleanor Letary, who's just come on. We don't see her picture, but she's been instrumental in the stuff that we did at Linden Pond. So we have a group, Global Warming Action Group, and Eleanor was key to getting that underway. So it's wonderful that she's come tonight.
Welcome, Eleanor.
Thank you, thank you.
There's another name I'm not recognizing, which is Amelia McClellan. Oh, her voice isn't on yet. Okay.
Hi, Judith.
Yes,
Hi, it's Sharon.
which Sharon?
Sharon St. Hours.
Oh, why does it say Amelia?
Oh, that's my daughter.
Oh, okay. I got it. Sharon, thank you for all the work that you did. Did you connect up with our former treasurer?
I
President?
did not see him in person today, but we will be getting together Thursday.
Okay, super.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so the status is, as you know, the account is, I don't have access to the funds. They froze the account because of the, when we stopped the account because there was that scam. And
I don't know about that.
yeah, so somebody got access to some of our account information,
Well,
posing as you, asking me to write a check and send it to an address. And
wow.
it turned out the address didn't exist. So the post office told me that wasn't a valid address. So I did some double checking and discovered that it was a scam. And so we closed the account to reopen it. And when we went to reopen it, they discovered that my name is not listed as a director on Sustainable South Shore. So, and yours isn't either. So we needed to get somebody that's listed as a director currently, which is Ben,
Right.
to sign the paperwork to have that changed. So
Okay.
that's what Ben and I are going to be doing on Thursday. And as soon as that paperwork is filed and accepted by the state of Massachusetts, I can then go back to the bank and reopen the account.
Okay, you're mentioning the state of Massachusetts makes me think of something. The woman who had offered to be our new secretary just decided to go back to grad school.
Oh,
So, I am looking for a man or a woman who would like to take notes during meetings, but more important than that, help with filing our annual report. So I'll mention that at the beginning of our meeting. And if anybody here feels open-hearted and willing to give, it probably is not more than 10 hours for the whole year, give a little bit of their time. It would just give me peace of mind, and I would greatly appreciate it. Owen McDonald, I'm delighted to see you here. If you could turn your camera on, I could actually see you.
Good evening. I'll turn the camera on as soon as I duck out and get a glass of water, if nobody minds.
Sure,
Kind of warm here.
please be comfortable.
Thank you.
Linda, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Lancaster. I'm the group lead for the chapter of the Citizens Climate Lobby, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
And where do you live?
I live in Plymouth.
Great. So who else do we have from Plymouth? Do you
Wait,
recognize the other people from Plymouth? Person from Plymouth?
Saw Patrick somewhere in the
You're right.
box of Hollywood squares here.
Clayton, I have not seen you in how long? You're muted.
Hi, how are you?
Would you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Clayton Handelman, and I'm have recently had enough time to do some community activism. My focus has been with Hingham Net Zero and a variety of things, working with them locally to see Hingham become a little more progressive with energy. And I think
Your voice is a little hard to hear. Can you get close to the mic somehow?
How's this?
That's good.
Better?
Yes.
Sorry, I've had a lot of technical changes. I'm with Hingham Net Zero. I live in Hingham. I've been have for a number of years have not had enough bandwidth to be able to be locally active. Judith and I were together active years ago, and but recently I have, and so we're trying to get Hingham to get some real progress in terms of moving to being a net zero community.
I'm delighted that you met my son.
Yeah, that was fun. Did he tell you? I hadn't realized the connection between the two of you.
Until you left each other. Yeah.
Right. So it was only very recent that we made that connection.
Clayton, looking down on you right now, you look like a little boy.
Well, I feel like an old man, so I think I'm going to take that as good news.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah. Eleanor, tell me a little about yourself.
You're muted. Yeah.
Turner, what were you going to say?
Oh, I just noted you were muted. You're fine now.
Okay. I'm new to Linden Ponds the last 4 years, and I met Turner and got involved and very interested in the global warming, and have been active on our committee here over the past several years, and interested in learning more specifically about the net zero China net zero.
Great.
And the activities and what you're doing.
Excellent. Patrick, what's new in Plymouth? You are always doing great things, and I don't want to wait another hour before I get to listen to you. But you have to turn your mic on.
Good evening. Thank you. A lot has happened. So about 2 years ago, the conservation agent, Richard Vaca, I don't know if you know him, but him and I started discussing a civic agriculture program. And what that is essentially is to promote micro farming, innovative farming methods, indoor, rooftop, vacant lots, so on, to Plymouth. And we're looking at creating a food hub, a food policy council. And last year, in the midst of COVID, I started thinking about, well, what's a good step, or what's the first process in food creation? And that is, well, we need pollinators, because 1 out of every 3 bites we eat is responsible by, a pollinator is responsible for. And again, we mow a lot of our roadsides that have different pollinator-friendly plants and so on. So I started drafting, and I finished drafting, a Plymouth pollinator protection plan, researching not only the state's pollinator plan, but also from different sources, including the Obama administration back in 2015 drafted a federal plan for pollinator protection. And 2 weeks ago, I am very happy to say, Richard Vaca and I presented before the select board, and the select board not only endorsed the plan, but they are also in support of our civic agriculture program. So this is absolutely huge. This is going to take Plymouth light years ahead in not only food security, but what our premise is to have food grown by people creating food steps instead of food miles. So that's huge stuff that we've been working on for the last couple of years, and it's really starting to come together.
Do you have a website?
No, I mean, it's the pollinator plan, I think, is on a web page through, I think, the Open Space Committee. I'll have to check that out. I know it's posted somewhere. We unfortunately don't have a website just on this, or at least not yet.
Okay, Sustainable South Shore would like to post your plan.
Okay, great. I can email that to you tomorrow.
Wonderful.
Also, last year, town meeting approved the green communities to move forward through, the stretch code. However, we had an issue with some of the language, so we had to go back to Springtown meeting, which they voted again in favor of it. We are on the cusp of becoming designated. The 5-year 20% reduction plan is being drafted through OCPC as we speak. There's still some data collection that has to go on, but we're well on our way, and I'm hoping within the next couple of months we should be designated.
There's some big steps that are happening at the state level in the stretch code and the regular code.
Right.
So, keeping everybody informed about that is pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do the best that we can, and you can help with that, frankly.
Sure. We've also, since the last meeting, we've had 8 electric vehicle charging stations. We received a grant, probably almost about $250,000 between the state as well as Eversource through the Make Ready program for 3 additional stations. So we're kind of going through the Eversource engineering phase of it now.
Wow. How many altogether?
Well, the end goal, hopefully within the next 120 days, will be 11 stations up and running and free to the public.
Free? You get
It
free?
is, yeah, they're all free to the public. Now, there are a couple that you have to pay for the parking, but all of this is free to EV drivers.
That's a lot different than putting gas in your car.
Well, the intent is, and it was something that I came up with probably 8 years ago when we first started this, is to get people coming in. And I've spoken to quite a few EV drivers from out of state, and they a number of them have said that the reason why they stopped in Plymouth and ended up having a great time for dinner or lunch on their way down to the Cape, this is becoming more of a destination than just a pass-through, is because we offer this infrastructure.
I think Hall might like to do something like that. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, so with this 2050 decarbonization roadmap, I'm very interested. I guess you have a guest speaker going to speak to us?
That's right. The woman who got the whole ball rolling on the roadmap.
Okay. So I do have a couple questions for her once the presentation's done. But anyway, also, big news. I know I've said this in the past that the schools and the municipality had, we purchased solar credits, and there's been some changes. We're using Titan Energy as our consultant, and we're being told that by the 4th quarter of this year, the schools and the municipality will be at net zero.
Wow.
Great.
So.
Turner, when you talk, can you explain to everyone what net zero means?
Well, the objective is to have all of our communities, hopefully by 2040, reduce their emissions to the point where any remaining carbon emissions are offset by comparable renewable energy.
Great.
So,
Okay. Owen McDonald, you have not yet introduced yourself. Could you do that?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Owen McDonald, the traffic engineer for the town of Weymouth.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Owen, I especially hoped you would be here because we are going to put together a working group having to do with not all the details of planning transportation, but of getting the basics of how do we get transportation to net zero or to 100% clean energy. And you'll have some thoughts about it.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. And you'll have some questions if nothing else, okay? Susan Fontaine, I don't see your picture, but I'm happy that you're here. And I saw you here, there you are, okay? Can you introduce yourself?
Susan Fontaine, I'm a member of Sustainable Duxbury in the Duxbury Alternative Energy Committee.
Thank you.
I'm going on vacation tomorrow morning, so you might not see a lot of me. I'm still packing.
Okay, I hear what you can listen while you're packing, right? Okay, sure. You can tell us eventually where you're going to. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I want you all to know that we've started a new TV station. I think I mentioned it at the beginning. It's TV2.com. And Patrick, right now, this month, which ends in a day or so, or maybe it ends, yeah, tomorrow. We've been focusing on agriculture, and so you'll find, call me back, you'll find some good examples of community gardening or farming in various communities in the Boston area. And I just think you would find that interesting. The film
Thank you.
The film that it goes with is called Kiss the Ground, and it's about the role that soil plays in sequestering carbon and how the subsidies to farmers to grow lots of corn and wheat and kill bees and all of that hurts the soil. So it made me think about a part of the climate picture that I really hadn't thought that much about.
Sounds great.
Okay, somehow we need to allow, Turner, can you help Laura get into this meeting? I don't see her on the list, but she just sent me a text saying she's having difficulty getting in.
Okay, let me,
I'll tell her you're coming to her rescue. She said it says incorrect password. Except the way she said it to me was incorrect. Oh, there you are.
Never mind. Not incorrect passcode, incorrect pilot. Incorrect. It was pilot error. Sorry, my fault.
Okay, but the telephone translated what you said into incorrect Passover.
That I can't speak to.
oh, you made it in. Good.
Not Jewish. I can't. Sorry, Judith.
We're glad to have you here. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Laura Burns with Turner. I'm one of the founders of Hingham Net Zero and newly elected Light Board Commissioner in Hingham.
Congratulations.
Huge, absolutely huge.
That was a wonderful meeting this morning with the Hingham Light Board.
I had my first Light Board meeting this morning and I'm very excited, and I think Turner probably is too.
Can you tell us about it?
So it just feels like we're all on the same page and ready to do some serious work. I'm ready to get going.
What
Everybody's
does
on
that
the
mean,
same
all
page.
on the same page for you?
For me, it means that everybody is committed to figuring out what to do about climate change, and we're going to do something.
Wow.
Was it recorded, Laura?
It was.
Awesome. I'll check in with you offline because I'd love to. I couldn't make the meeting this morning, but I'd love to hear it.
So I don't actually have the recording. I don't know who has charge of the recording.
Probably Paul.
So sorry, I dropped into the middle of this, into the middle of y'all.
We're just chatting right now. The
Okay.
actual meeting starts in about 10 minutes. Brianna, can you come through so we can introduce you?
Sure. I'm just finishing up dinner right now. Just give me 2 minutes.
Sure, okay. So the person I was just speaking to is the consultant to Tanya. And she lives in Hull. Her boyfriend lives in Quincy, so she's kind of back and forth a little bit. And is brilliant. We're very fortunate to have her involved in what we're doing. So anyhow, I was telling you about things that we're doing. So we've started this TV station, hulltv2.com, and the first Thursday of each month, it'll show a new movie. You can come during the month because it'll be available on demand. It's a little different than looking at your regular screen. When you first come in, you find a blue bar that says, you know, you'll find everything here, and you click on that. And then when you get there, the top half is the screen, the bottom half is the schedule. When you know what you want to do, you can increase the size of the screen so it fills up your whole screen. So far, that's what it looks like, but it might change. The other thing that I will mention now, and I'll talk about again, is that I guess this really started with me because it was something that hit me hard. Looking at a movie that Sir David Attenborough put together for PBS called Extinction: The Facts, where he showed the two last white rhinoceroses on Earth, a 40-year-old mother, a 20-year-old daughter, the last two. And I went to bed just heartbroken looking at these two animals. And when I woke up in the morning, I remembered what I had thought and said to myself, Judith, do something. So for me, what I start with are thoughts, positive thoughts, because from experience, I know that my thoughts, if I keep them positive, will create a positive reality for myself. Think happiness. And I also know that when you add thoughts together, it squares their power. So I looked up to see how many people will be on Earth, you know, in a couple of years. 8.1 billion. The square root of that is 90,000. That actually is a number that I can imagine. That's 9,000 people each finding 10 people, you know, it's not impossible. So the two thoughts that I'm asking people to hold are, one is a picture, you know, something you can talk about, something you can imagine, that is of a stable, sustaining climate with all of Earth's species. The other thought is, I believe gratitude is a very positive, powerful thought. And so thinking, thank you for the miracle happening in our lives. That's what it takes, a miracle, okay? So we started a website or a Facebook page. And one of the things I want to do is be able to know when we get to the 90,000. And if you follow it, then I'll know, you know, so in just a couple of days, we've got 54 people. And so if you go on Facebook and you put in positive thoughts, climate strategy, you will get there. There are actually a number of websites that have to do with climate, positive thoughts and climate and so forth. But those 4 words, positive thoughts, climate strategy, and you'll get there. Please follow so I can tell you've been there. And Joan, welcome. And post things. I've learned that the way people use Facebook, the more interesting stuff that's on there, the more people are going to follow it. So be part of the community and share your thoughts. Joan, it is such an honor to have you here. Would you unmute yourself?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
In about 10 minutes, you're on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was on in time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any troubles.
Okay. And I'm delighted with who's here so far. We've got Plymouth, Hingham, Duxbury,
Weymouth.
Hull, obviously. Who's Bob's phone? What's that?
Bob O'Connor from Weymouth.
Oh, fantastic. So there are 2 Weymouth people here. Bob, I haven't seen you. I was in your office a long time ago. Do you remember?
Oh, did you take the stuff off my desk? You're the one that was there? No, I heard you were there though, Judy.
But it was a long time ago, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm delighted that the mayor sent you. I met him before he even got into the legislature. He was here in Hull campaigning. And so
I heard he told me all about the golf cart.
Yeah. I don't have it anymore. He'll be surprised. He and Patrick O'Connor passed the legislation to allow electric, they're not called golf carts, they're called low-speed vehicles, to allow them on regular 30 miles or under roads in Massachusetts. There are a lot of farm states that allow them, but they weren't here in Massachusetts. And for 10 years, that was such a fun way for me to travel around.
I'm sure, yeah.
I highly recommend it to anybody who's wondering if they'd like it.
Great.
So we have Owen here from Transportation, and I was mentioning from Weymouth Transportation, and I was mentioning to him that I'd like us, to have a handful of people that will take a look at South Shore transportation, its strengths and its weaknesses, and start to get some idea of the scope of what we can do to get it to down to net zero or to all clean energy in a way that makes it such an exciting thing to get around here on the South Shore. And I think we can do it. But transportation is not something you can pull off just with your town. You've got to go someplace. You've got to have people come to you. So it really requires people working together.
Yep.
Clayton, what is new in the solar department that you know of? Turn yourself on. Can you let your voice come through?
There we go. Okay, how's the volume?
It's not big enough.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't been as active in solar, although one of the things I'm looking forward to doing is re-energizing my array at my home and working with Hingham Net Zero to use it as a guinea pig to interact with the various town agencies, Hingham Light and the Hingham Historic Commission, to find ways. Hingham has so many historic properties, and I think that there's going to be a lot of need for developing some standards in terms of how to deal with this, in historic properties so people can set the expectations, and we can have a good balance and compromise between being respectful of our historic community, but also recognizing that if it goes underwater, then we sort of haven't really
Yeah,
accomplished
you lost it. Right.
So that's kind of the solar piece. I've actually become much more focused on electric vehicles, so that's become kind of my new passion. And then also, just as an immediate thing, if anybody wants to join Hingham Net Zero, walk with us in the parade on the 4th of July, we want to continue to show the people in town that there's a real support for developing some of these net zero environmental policies. And we feel like that's a nice way to send that message by having.
Absolutely.
We'll have 3 electric vehicles and a float in the Hingham Parade this year. And you can reach out to me afterwards if anybody would like to join us walking in that.
Thank you. Ross, welcome from Quincy. Can you turn your voice
Thank you. Thank you.
Ross is going to be the only person here from Quincy, and he knows everything that we need to know about Quincy. Okay.
I know more than you need to know, but I'm Ross Edwards. I'm a member of the Quincy Climate Action Network, and I will report as best I can. I'm also a member of the Mayor's Climate Change Committee, and I will be reporting on what we have been doing in that committee as well.
Fantastic. And Paul?
Hi, I'm Paul Lowenstein from Sharon.
Thank you. And you want to just say one thing about Sharon?
Yeah, we lowered our water use by 30% over the last 10 years.
Say it again?
We lowered our water use by 30% over the last 10 years. It's a darn good thing we did, because we just had to turn off one of our wells because it's contaminated with PFAS. And if we hadn't lowered our water use, we would be short of water.
Wow.
Did you do that under a consent decree?
We lowered our water use by promoting water conservation, and also by sending black water rates that made it more expensive to use more water.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Excellent. That is worth knowing. I'll bring that to people working on the Weir River. Steve, welcome. Would you like to just introduce yourself? Tanya was actually the first person here, even before me.
Hi, I'm Steve Leonard from Cohasset, along with several other people on this call.
Or at least one other, okay? So anybody else have the same attitude toward thoughts that I do? And anybody here have any thoughts in that direction? Laura, does that mean you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what I'm asking people to do is to use their minds to create our reality, a positive reality, which is to think, talk about, imagine, picture, if you're into praying, pray, that we have a stable, sustaining climate and that the earth keeps all of its species. And to join that thought with the thought of gratitude. Thank you for the miracle happening in our lives. And to think about that many times during the day in whatever, since all of us are in some way or another into climate, it kind of comes naturally to think about it. And to gather a few more people, like another 10 people. We put together a Facebook page, which will make it easier for us to count. And if when you've got the same thought, it squares the power of it. If you're holding the same thought. So if we get 90,000 people to hold those thoughts, it's equal to 8.1 million thoughts, or billion thoughts, I guess. That's how many people will be on the earth in 2024. And if you can imagine walking into a room where everyone is thinking the same thought, you're going to pick up on it, let me tell you. So we want to get that thought, or those two thoughts, just part of what people are feeling out in the air. That's the idea. So if you would go to that Facebook page, there's a little bit of an explanation, and it's not any more complicated than that. It's just, you know, if you want to take a vacation, you spend some time dreaming about where you're going to go, and that's it. Okay, Michael Kavanaugh, I haven't seen you. We talk on the telephone, but I don't often see your face. So I'm really delighted that you're here. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm Mike Kavanaugh, I'm the president of Sustainable Braintree.
Super. Bill Botigi just today found out he wouldn't be able to be here. I took some notes and we talked with each other. So I'll be talking a little bit about Braintree Electric, but if you can help fill in, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Marianne Leonard, welcome. Is Martin going to join you? Great.
Yeah, he'll be here in a second.
Okay, super. Okay, it is 7:05. Joan, we don't have everyone here. Would you mind just starting?
No problem, Judith. In fact, some of you have heard this presentation before, and I'm always happy to come back and refresh again.
Excuse me, before you go, before we get started, I'm looking for a secretary. We're going to record, this meeting's being recorded, so it's not going to be essential for every word that everybody speaks to be recorded. But if there happened to be in this meeting somebody who would be a secretary for Sustainable South Shore, not just tonight, but to help me file our annual report, speak up, okay? Go ahead, Joan.
Sure. So what I thought I might do is, since this is over Zoom, if you would let me share the screen. I'll put a few slides up just so it make it more engaging as we go through it. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, let's see.
All right, I think I can.
Turner is in charge of the screen.
Ta-da! Thank you, Turner.
There you are.
Okay, hold on. I'm getting good at this. Ta-da! So first of all, it's just so lovely to see all of you. And so many familiar faces. For those of you who are new to me and I am new to you, I am State Representative Joan Moschino, representing the 3rd Plymouth District, which is Hingham, Hull, Cohasset, and North Scituate. And so I've actually known Judith for many, many years, since I was a young girl. So I was delighted to be invited here tonight. What I thought I would do is, Judith asked me to talk a little bit about the next generation roadmap for Massachusetts climate policy, which was S9. For those of you who have heard me present on the climate crisis before, you've heard me say many times that these issues present as public safety, as public health, environmental changes, social justice, environmental justice, racial justice. But in fact, the solution is economic, and it is about decarbonizing our economy. When I got into the legislature, I was eager to tackle these issues, and I was looking and I discovered that we need a plan. So I filed the roadmap, and I should give a really quick shout out to the fabulous Laura Burns, because she was my partner in crime on this. We went door to door and made our case, persuaded the legislature, and the 2050 roadmap came to the floor and became, through the amendment process and the committee process, the Next Generation Roadmap. And it really is a beautiful piece of legislation that came forward. It's very exciting to have my small piece of it, actually be the vehicle that resulted in such a great piece of legislation. So I filed it because we need a plan, and now we have one. So what I thought I would do is to walk you through Senate 9. So what the Next Generation Roadmap really is it's a critical update to the Global Warming Solutions Act, and it was drafted based on 10 years of experience with the GWSA. So what I thought I would do is just talk a little bit about that bill, Senate 9, which I'm very excited to say actually was signed in March but went into effect on Friday. So that was pretty exciting to have all of that effort happen and now to be here with you. I was going to just talk a little bit about the 2050 roadmap itself and implementation and the 2030 CECP. I was going to share with you what I think are the next legislative pieces, some of my bills, and then I thought we might talk a little bit about local action, which is where all of you come in. And I just want to sort of go back and just remind everybody that, again, the 2050 roadmap is a 30-year plan to decarbonize our economy. And it's important to keep that in mind because everything we're going to be talking about is actually economic. Can I join you?
Yes.
So the Next Generation Climate Roadmap, there are sort of key components to it. So obviously there's the Net Zero Roadmap, which was the 2050 roadmap, which I filed. That was where we decided to reset the carbon emission reduction goal to net zero by 2050. We put in place, and that was really to align it, right? To align it with current mature science. We put in place strong 2030 and 2040 interim goals, and we did it as a floor, right? And it was a straight line of at least 50%, at least 75%, and then net zero to make sure we had strong goals in place, but we could take action above and beyond that. The 2050 roadmap itself, that is a technical document, and it's a 30-year schedule of carbon emission reductions and the strategies to implement it. It was integrated across 6 sectors. It had it has now 5-year evaluation periods for that public sort of input process and the transparency and accountability. It now includes a definition for natural lands and nature-based solutions in the net zero definition, and it's equivalent of 15%. Probably the thing that's most important about it is that they have to do all of this work through a people-centric lens, which is my polite way of saying that we built equity into the analysis, the planning, and the execution of this. The rising tide should lift all boats. And that transparency and that accountability to the public and to the legislature is critical as we build to work the plan together. So the roadmap itself, as I said, is a technical document. And you can go online. I gave you the URL. It's probably like 800 pages. And it really is the schedule of emissions, and it intersects across all sectors. And it has 8 different pathways, likely pathways. And what that was really meant to say was that to drive innovation, to make sure that we were looking ahead and not getting, following a path that didn't lead someplace and then having to start over. It was really meant to be flexible. And it was, like I said, is meant to plan. And for those of you I noticed on this, some of you actually are planners, and Judith's a planner. You know that sometimes we'll do 5 years, and to do 30 years is really very extraordinary, and it's really meant to have public participation. And one of the key pieces is that we have to drive this process. You don't just pass legislation and then be passive. We have to stay involved every step of the way at all levels. The 2030 Clean Energy Climate Plan is actually the first piece that we're undertaking, right? So we're doing it in 10-year blocks, and this is the plan, the CECP, for the next 10 years to achieve our 2030 goals. They had gone pretty far down that path. I'm sure some of you participated in the public comment process. They paused it while the legislation was being finalized. Much of the work that they did actually anticipated the 2050 roadmap, because we really approached it as a dialogue every step of the way. And so the administration knew what we were proposing. They knew where there was consensus. They knew, because it was like I said, a dialogue at every level. And so they knew it was coming, but through the conference committee report process between the House and the Senate, there were a few things that did change, positive things that changed. And so they're now taking a step back to align the 2030 Clean Energy Climate Plan with the current law, but they will not conduct new public process. They'll finalize it, and I think you'll probably see it in the fall. But I've given you the URL, so that's a much more digestible document. And it's really a planning visioning document, so you can really see where they're headed with all of these things. The other thing I just wanted to mention was the GWSA Implementation Advisory Committee. That was part of the original 2008 law. And it's been functioning in place ever since then. And it is a fantastic place. It's all on the website, EEA's website. It's a fantastic place to watch, to see what their topics they're discussing. It's a great opportunity for access into what's happening. And they organize themselves around a series of working groups that reflect the different sectors. And so, each of those working groups are coming out with their own recommendations. And it's just it's a great access point for to track it, step on it, and to see what people are really talking about these days. Oops, there we go. So as far as legislation and budget, you've heard me say this before. Where we invest our money, right, tells you what we value and what priorities we have. So I did just want to note that the House and Senate are going through the budget process right now. We do expect the budget very soon. I'm embarrassed. I put this presentation together when we were still with the House, and the House increased the green budget line item almost 5% over what the governor had put in there, and I'm hopeful that our Senate partners increased it even further, but I'm sure that they met us at that point. But I think it speaks to, again, that sort of interplay between the administration and legislation and public, is that we do intend to do this, and we do want him to fund it, and he needs to just fund it. So I just want to share that with you. I also had put in and advocated for some DER funding in the House budget. I just wanted to mention it because, it's the money through the Division of Ecological Restoration that helps us remove dams and ecological restoration, things like that, which actually our district has availed themselves of that grant funding. So I was able to get it up to 2.4. The Senate had it at 3.2, so I'm hoping it will land at 3, where we actually had originally the amount we requested. And what that does is it really builds in the technical support that our districts need to do that. And I just want to mention it to you because I know you all care deeply about the environment. And then the last thing was there was some confusion between the administration and the legislature about the amount of wind that we actually intended to procure. So I did just want to let everyone know that through a budget amendment, Chairman Jeff Roy did reaffirm that we really did mean 5,600 megawatts for some reason. Don't ask me why the EEA thought we only wanted 4. So anyway, so I just wanted to share that with you. So, we needed a plan. I filed the bill, we passed it. Now we have a plan. Now is time to get to work. Now's the time where we actually have to start to tackle some of these things. And, through this process, we learned a lot about, where the emissions come from. And by sector, the biggest, most impactful one right now is, in fact, transportation. The original Global Warming Solutions Act was focused on energy and greening the grid. And that was all it was really focused on. I mean, we were taking some steps in other sectors, but basically they were not moving on to the other sectors. And the two big ones are transportation and how we heat our buildings. So I filed some legislation. I just wanted to share with you, those are the House numbers, the bills, around zero emission vehicles. The first one, 35, I'm not sure that's the right number. I thought it was 33. But anyway, I might have, I think it might be 3341, but I'll correct that before we end and put it in the chat for you. But the emission, basically what it is it's a mandate by which we would no longer register internal combustion engines. And it's more of sort of a broad statement that we need to transition at some point. That bill is meant to align us with current industry plans, with other states like California, and it's in the transportation committee right now. The second bill is actually what I refer to as an infrastructure bill. And what it does is it's meant to incentivize the transition over to zero emission vehicles. It's for light duty vehicles, or otherwise called ZEVs. Just at a high level, what it's doing is it would propose a grant program for point of sale rebates to consumers who purchase or lease new EV vehicles. So it's really expanding that more EV program. It would connect utilities with electric vehicle owners so that they would have information about rebates and other grants that are available. It would promote equitable access to grants and rebates, really trying to reach rural communities, environmental justice communities, low-income communities. And it would also assist cities and towns with making the infrastructure available curbside. So, right, it's about creating confidence that if I buy the vehicle, you know, I'll be able to drive it and charge it. I think right now there's a little bit of misperception about how easy it is to actually own a zero emission vehicle. And it would also develop a plan to identify state routes, US routes, interstate highways that are all priorities for this kind of charging stations. And it would also require charging stations in at least 10% of parking lots, but it would also make them require the parking lots for 90%, really trying to look ahead and cultivate and make easier, incentivize that use. So it's just some of the things that that bill did. I also have co-sponsored, co-presented the EV fleets vehicle bill, which is what Representative Christine Barber from Somerville filed at last session, and she worked on it with Rep. John Hecht. He's retired from the legislature, and she's asked me to work on that with her. She leads in that space, but again, it's about requiring public and public serving fleets to be 100% electric by 2035, in the same way we would do for our light duty fleets. The other bill that I filed is around decarbonizing our carbon, the carbon emissions of buildings, how we heat our buildings. It's meant to be both prospective, right? What we're building now. It's also meant to be retroactive, and how we will retrofit existing buildings. So it's proposing things like changes to the Mass Save program, to the BBRS for opt-ins, and figuring out how to do net zero billing codes. It would create a commercial PACE program. It would add to the residential PACE program, and it would do a series of expanding the green communities, or asking DOER to get municipal light plants into the green communities. So it does it's a pretty comprehensive bill, and it's really meant to sort of plant a stake in the ground and say that buildings are equally important. For my part, I think the urgency comes around with cars. People buy cars and turn over cars fairly regularly, And so, you know, there's real urgency to tackle that quickly so that we just glean every savings, every opportunity to save on those carbon emissions and to reduce emissions, because that's something we do with frequency. With buildings, I think there's equal urgency because that is a harder piece to reach. If you, like us, we live in an old part of the country, in old towns, we have many old buildings, and how you get people, you know, to change up really becomes a retrofit, becomes a much harder thing because most people don't have the kind of amassed wealth that where they can just, you know, take out, you know, their hot water heater or their furnace and just turn over. Most people don't have that kind. So we really have to be very thoughtful about how we reach into our communities and make sure that everybody gleans the benefit of these programs, including low income and moderate income people. The third bill I just wanted to share with you is an act to create access to justice. Now that we have we've built into the analysis and we have actually enacted environmental justice language. This bill, what this would do is I think of it as a lawyer, I think of it as a standing bill. And what it does is it creates the right in a Massachusetts court for a Massachusetts resident to avail themselves of, it's really any civil rights, but I think of it as an environmental justice bill, of our new environmental justice rights. And what it really is, what's different, because we're in Massachusetts, we have wonderful civil rights. And in fact, we have more civil rights under our Massachusetts Constitution than we do under our US Constitution. But the piece that's missing is the impact piece. So when government puts out some sort of a law or regulation, and it's neutral on its face, right? In fact, we may be calling for it and thinking that is a good thing. But in practice, it has a disparate impact or an impact on a protected class. Then you would have the ability to go into court and to actually take action and to make that claim. And right now you don't. So we thought that this was an important piece to now think of the Weymouth compressor station. It was an important piece for us to now be able to avail ourselves of those rights and make those claims and take our case to court. So the last thing I just wanted to talk a little bit about was local action. So it's, as I said earlier, it's great to put these kinds of laws in place, and now we have really strong policy mechanisms to really push for all of these kinds of changes. I mean, that's the whole point of this bill, is to drive innovation on a very high level. But now that we're doing the work of it, so the state can put into place, things like the Green Communities Act. And I mentioned there's actually quite a few bills looking to enhance the Green Communities Act. And what that really does is it creates incentives. It aligns all of the people on the municipal level towards the goals of achieving these kinds of carbon emission reductions. And that's very important. But at the end of the day, we can't make you do anything, nor should we. And what it really is it's about incentivizing so that that people will embrace it on the municipal level. There are other mechanisms. I just threw one on here because we're all familiar with state building programs. I mean, every community's built a school or a library. And now all of these taking into account how we're heating these buildings, right? And what the cost of carbon is. Now we're wrapping all of those things into these buildings, and you will start to see people put forward these projects in these ways. But at the end of the day, we have to really understand what our municipal carbon footprint looks like. And organizations like yourself have to really embrace it and be good partners with, or I should say state officials should be good partners with the activities that are happening on the local level, because that's where the investments will be made. That's where people will really come to embrace it. That's where people will come to, to call on elected officials to do these works. And, obviously in our district, I'm just happen to be able to see Steve Winter. It's like the alternative energy committee is looking to be, municipal aggregation. I mean, that's brilliant. The projects that you've done in Cohasset, with capped landfill, with the solar and the charging stations. But we can easily point to Hingham and all of the net zero committee and the commitment that town meeting has now made, not to mention all of the work and really all the fabulous work at the municipal light plant level, and even in Hull with our wind turbines and our commitments to 100% renewable energy. So when you really start to look at it, this is where the action's happening. And I just wanted to applaud you, to remind you that it does. I'm one person in 200, so I can't make this case without you. And so I just wanted to remind everyone that synergy is so important. To your point, Judith, I would say in my mind, I'm already there. So, but it's the local level that educated me as a selectman on these issues and inspired the work. The district is my lens. I do this because of all of you. So I did just, we can question and answer. I think there's in contact information there. As always, constituent services are my top priority. So my aides and my email and my phone are there if there's anything we can do to help you. And you know that we really love to be part and parcel of all of the work and support you on the local level. So with that, I'm going to stop share so I can see you. And if there is time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you'd like.
Bravo.
Absolutely.
Oh, is that you, Turner? I heard that. I can, oh my God, that's how well I know you all. I was like, could tell your voices without even I see someone put something in the chat. Let me just see what you guys are up to.
Patrick Farah has a question.
Okay, sure.
Oh, good evening, Joan. This is Patrick Farah with Town of Plymouth, the energy officer.
How are you?
With regard with the roadmap, because I read the December 2020 draft, and the legislation regarding transportation with regard to banning ICEs within what 2020, 2035.
Yep.
Basically, you adhere to the California law, correct? So that has passed.
No, that has not yet passed. That I filed that bill this session.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll be calling you when it comes for hearing for testimony.
Excellent. So
awesome.
the question that I have that's asked of me a lot is, will that be this if this passes or when this passes, will it affect existing vehicles or all new
Just
cars? No, new light duty vehicles. And the reason I ask is because although I'm a staunch environmentalist, I'm also a car guy. and I do belong to the Cape Cod Porsche group, and the guys are very scared.
Oh, tell them, no. Tell them not to worry. Craig Wolf would have my head if I ever did anything to disrupt his classic car truck raiser. So you don't have to worry. Tell them not to worry. But in all seriousness, it's what we're doing, and this is a great question, actually, Patrick. We're transitioning. So going back to my first remarks is, it's the decarbonization of our economy over 30 years. So we are literally planning for over 30 years. So for something like that, at some point, we just have to embrace a new path. But you can't, we could just do carbon pricing tomorrow. We could just say, oh, no more. But don't forget where I also said at the beginning about the equity lens. And we need to make sure that we're being thoughtful about it, that we're bringing everybody along, that we're giving ourselves time, that we're acting expeditiously and with urgency. But it's about the planning. And so I think that one of the things that state government can really do, and setting aside should be happening at the federal level, and we'll get there. But one of the things that we're really doing is we're sending a signal out to the larger business and industry community. And we're telling them what our expectations are and how to participate. And so, in fact, you've already seen that some of the big car companies, I mean, the reason we picked 2035 is because that's where they're trying to shift towards, is they'll only be producing those cars. So what we're really trying to do is align all of these activities to achieve success. But tell the guys, I would never take away their portion. I promise, I will not. And they might actually be very excited about the snazzy new cars that are coming out. And that somewhere along the line, someone has to come and take me for a ride.
Absolutely. So, and the other thing is, well, I find the language fascinating. I really hope that it does pass, because it is my argument. And I'm not sure if you heard me earlier, but I was talking to Judith. For like the last 8 years or so, we piloted a single EV charging station. We have now 8. I'm going through this, the latest state grant program. We were awarded funding for 3 additional units. And what I'm looking at is, I don't know if you know Plymouth much, but like 1 at the airport and 2 at parks. And I want to start putting these in some of the parks that we have, because we have many parks in town.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and I'm using this language as, you know, to before the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, excuse me, that you know, we have 14 years to put in real charging infrastructure. It is really not that much time. We need to have these all over the place, and I think the language is great. And if there's only one kind of constructive criticism that I could maybe leave you with is Eversource really needs to get with the program on their engineering, their site assessment work, because I submitted things back in, I think, March, and 2 out of the 3, they're still going through engineering. And you know, I'm concerned that we may lose the grant funding because we only have so many months to install these.
Oh, interesting. I would, you know, you might want to touch base with Rep. Muraturi.
Matt knows about this. So
he's a master. He's a master at moving these things. So in that instance, I would. But you know, it's interesting. Laura can tell you that this was very much dialogue. I mean, I sat with National Grid on multiple occasions, and they actually helped me write some of the language and shape some of the language. I mean, they're already doing this in the UK, and both all of our power generators, you know, they all know this is coming, and they actually, if you really sit with them, look, and they're doing their planning, it's really fascinating to hear them talk about it, because they're thinking about the transitions too. But that doesn't mean in the immediate that they've change the way they do things. So we have instructed, you know, that's part of the things that are in there in terms of DOER and some of the programs that we're asking them to push out. And DOER has been a better partner. I wasn't sure. They've been actually a much better partner and a much more eager partner than they're ready. They're ready to do some of these things. So,
well, I appreciate all the effort.
Thank you.
Joan, oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, hi, Representative Machino. It's so nice to see you.
First of all, it's Moschino.
Sorry.
No, not at all. It's good to see you, Paul. I mean, I haven't been in the office. You haven't swung by in forever. I'll have to give you my address here in Hull.
From the COVID, but I wanted to thank you very much for this magnificent legislation. It's really timely and urgently needed. I want to call your attention to one thing that happened in Sharon. We're in the process of constructing a $163 million high school with a subsidy of $50 million from the state. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the high school is not net zero, so it will, if it lasts 60 years, it will be emitting carbon long beyond 2050. And I think the state needs to rethink its subsidy program so that it does not subsidize anything that's not net zero, because we're behind the 8 ball now already. You know, we're in the in the red zone. So seeing what's going on in the Pacific Northwest, it's an emergency, and we have to start acting like it and not sort of, you know, turning a blind eye to to things that just don't meet the
Yeah.
standard that we need to meet.
No, you're so right. Your point's so well taken. I mean, it was fine when I was having the conversation with the speaker's office. I kept saying, this is urgent. We have to do this now. And part of what I was saying to him was, it is well vetted. We all know where we need to head. And every minute we delay, then they build another school that doesn't comply, because you cannot make the administration do a dang thing it doesn't want to do until it's the letter of the law. And it's like, oh my God. And to some extent, the Baker administration was looking ahead and they saw it was coming, but they certainly had not yet integrated it. Now, what I understand from the Secretary of EEA, and every time I see her, I push her on this, and she's assured me that as they were preparing all of these documents and this planning, that it was very much integrated across all of their agencies, including that. Now, they haven't taken action on it yet, but that will be the next piece. And one of my colleagues, I just can't quite remember who, actually filed a bill this session that says, speaks to green schools, and not just the energy efficiency pieces of it, but also the climate within the schools, around like how hot things are and some of the problems and things like that. So someone actually has filed a bill just in case we need to, to push them. But that's what we're going to have to do, and that's where you all come in. Is we have to push for the kind of innovation we deserve. Otherwise, every dollar we spend moving forward is not just a sunk cost; it becomes a stranded cost, and it'll cost us 10 times more. So your point's incredibly well taken, and so we'll keep pushing on those things with the administration.
Thank you.
Erwin.
Hi, Joan. Whoops.
Hey, Erwin.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Two things that I think.
Introduce yourself, please.
Erwin Nessar from Hull, a member of the Hull Planning Board and the Clean Energy Climate Action Committee. There are two things I wanted to bring up, Joan. I think they're both no-brainers. One is when the MBTA put up the solar collectors on the parking lots for the commuter rail, they didn't put in any charging stations. Which doesn't make sense because that's free electricity, and it would encourage people both to use electric vehicles and to use public transit. So I don't know if there's a way that we can pressure the MBTA to do that. It's a no-cost item, and it just I don't understand. I spoke to somebody who worked for the company who installed it, and they wanted to do it, and the MBTA said absolutely not, because cars will park there all day and it won't be a in and out.
I know, honestly.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when you say the MBTA, it's like I really have like a headache. It's but they put them up. I mean, that's a start, and you don't even want to know what it took to get the dang things connected. So honestly, it's just,
I can only imagine.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point, and I just made myself a little note, and I'll drop a note to the real estate division and just remind them that moving forward they really need to do that. So.
Right, and the other one is.
Could I just mention about that when you call them up, Joan?
Yeah.
Those canopies are already wired for electric charging stations, so
they could.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Erwin. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you for that. The other one is the peaker plant, which makes absolutely no sense. We're trying to get to net zero, and it's going to be running on natural gas. And I think it's also in an environmental justice community. Hull is one of the towns that has signed on, but it flies in the face of the roadmap and everything else. How do we stop that? Because it's like the school that's being built in Sharon. It's
Erwin. I talked with a lawyer from Wakefield who was at that hearing. What we need to do is they've already got 2 municipalities that voted to withdraw. If we can get 6 more, it will not make any sense to the Mass Municipal Wholesale Electric Company. So first of all, Hull needs to vote, and then we need to find 5 more. And that's the strategy for it.
Yeah. Now, Erwin, I will just say to you, be mindful that independent, the Eversources, the National Grids, the power generators, and the MLPs are obligated. So ISO New England is obligated for reliable, safe, affordable electricity power. And now they have to take into account carbon, right? The price of carbon. And we are in a transition period. So I feel like I always have to say that. I know this seems like a strange thing from the girl that just said to you, there's urgency here, but it is about transition, because we do live in one of the coldest climates, and we are now very much switching over to being a winter peak as opposed to a summer peak, if you can believe that one. And that's because of electrification. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That particular project, I believe, is right next to, or is on top of, an environmental justice area. So I don't really know all of the details about it, and Judith obviously just gave you a strategy, but I would just say to everybody, this is a 30-year transition. So keep that in mind. We're not just turning the gas spigot off. The goal here is to not invest any more into new carbon-based emissions, which this would be, which is why you guys are fighting it. But keep that in mind, that we need to give ourselves runtime to permit, to build, and to connect our sustainable, say, offshore wind and things like that. I mean, those projects takes at least 5 years before you'll see a dewdrop of energy. So keep those things in mind. The idea is just not to build new and to start to transition away. And that's why I refer to it as an economic bill, is because the economics of it, to Judith's point, are not going to make sense for very much longer. So it's all part and parcel of it. And but try not to panic too much.
Close it so we can keep moving. Clayton, you had something to say.
I wanted to make a quick comment on that. I haven't been involved in the deep down specifics, but it could well be that putting in a peaker plant as they ramp up the offshore wind would enable them to retire some of the large continuously running gas-fired plants. What the peaker plants play really nicely with is they allow you to continue to have reliable power while using the non-dispatchable renewable sources. So
okay.
It's just, I just wanted to throw that in there as an important thing to be aware of. And it's, so there's some devil in the details to Joan's
This is another discussion that I hope I can gather you together for, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
Right now, I want to make sure that each community that's represented here, it's not all of us, but that each one represented has a time to tell us what they've been accomplishing, because you are all inspirational. So I want to hear from you. Who would like to be first? Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. I actually had a question about the climate bill first, if you wouldn't mind.
Of course.
So Braintree, like a lot of the other towns that are represented here, is a municipal light plant community. And our general manager was supposed to be on here, but he's not. And I haven't actually talked to him since the climate bill passed. But I was wondering, have you heard anything about the MLPs and their trade organizations doing any kind of resistance to this, or are they just kind of like accepting it and saying like, yep, we're going to be 50% carbon free by 2030, and then et cetera, after that?
So actually quite the opposite. They actually drafted one of the key provisions of the bill to create a new clean energy standard for municipal light plants. And they have the same, they had consensus, and it came from MWIC and ENE, and they helped draft it. They actually drafted the language with then chairman of the Telecom Utility and Energy, and it puts them on the same 2030, 2040 net zero path. And in fact, all of the presentations that I saw prior to the pandemic was that in the aggregate, I think there's 41 MLPs, but in the aggregate, you are already exceeded 50%. So now I don't know what, there are reports out there through MCAN, yes, Mass Climate Action Network. There are reports out there through MCAN, and I expect another report to come out soon. This is about the time when they usually do it, that will tell you where each individual MLP is, and it sort of depends. But the key thing in there was that they agreed to retire the renewable credits, that's been one of the big things, is that everyone would get the renewable credits, then they would sell them instead of retiring them, which Hingham has always led in that. They've always retired theirs, and Hull retires some of theirs now too. So, oh no, Laura said I'm wrong. All right, well, I was giving them more credit than they're due, but the fact of the matter is that that MLPs are already leading in this space, and they came to the table and said that they wanted to participate. And so now we have all of the boats rowing in the same direction, which is really exciting, because I think is it like 15% of the power generation in the state is from MLPs. It's just pretty substantial. Yeah, it's a great question. Great.
Excellent, thank you.
Mike, would you like to just give us some idea of what you know Braintree is doing? I talked with Bill Buttigieg today, and so let me just report what he told me about that they've been promoting electric vehicles, and that includes some rebates and just advertising, basically, and some incentives for charging off-peak. Through the Energy New England, they offer an online energy assessment that tells you about incentives that are available and how much you can possibly save. They now own 5 megawatts in solar arrays by partnering with the town of Braintree on a landfill, with a private school over carports, and with a large, really big industrial roof where they were able to put 2 megawatts. They also, and this just made me upset. They've participated in a Energy New England solar rebate program. The same program was available through Mass Municipal Wholesale Electric Company, which Hull is involved in. Tomorrow is the deadline for applying for it. And did we hear about it in Hull? No. So I want to find out why, okay? But those are some of the things that they've been doing in Braintree. Anything you'd like to add to that, Michael, that Braintree's been leading on?
The only other thing is we did become a green community as of April 23rd. So that was pretty cool.
That's especially special as a municipal light plant.
Yep. Yep.
Any questions for Braintree? Okay, at the moment, I just have an alphabetical list. Would Cohasset like to go next?
Yeah, we'd be happy to. I have just some visual slides to help reflect what we're doing, and it looks like I've got sharing capability, so I'm just going to quickly walk through these. Cohasset's very active. We have a very active alternative energy committee, and in addition to this, and let's see, I'm going to slideshow. In addition to this, we have people who in their personal capacity are engaged in different efforts that are helping the Alternative Energy Committee to monitor. So my name's Tanya Bodell. I'm the chair of the Alternative Energy Committee for the town of Cohasset. And in my day job, I'm a consultant to the energy space, which is helpful, but we have some very knowledgeable people on our committee as well. With Cohasset, we were reconstituted. We've been around, I think, for maybe more than 15 years. Steve Wenner, who's on this call, is our most longest standing member of the Alternative Energy Committee, and he's been a strong advocate on decarbonization and renewables for the town, and he's been able to apply that effort through the Alternative Energy Committee. It was reconstituted 2 years ago, and in that reconstitution, it expanded our efforts to community-wide residential and business, energy efficiency, clean energy options, and contributing to public awareness and education. And this has given us a lot of opportunity to expand the scope of what we had been doing. So we are very focused this year on helping benefits to residents and businesses. Our key initiatives still underway. We did a solar energy RFP last year. The response was amazing. We received bids for 5 to 7 times what the town's municipal load is, which then has encouraged us to look at community solar. We've been trying to figure out how to do a microgrid for the town. We're at the end of the line, as most of the people on this call, I think, are. So our reliability and resiliency is awful. Our feeder line is the second worst on the National Grid Massachusetts system with respect to the time it takes to get us back up and running. So we're trying to figure out, is there microgrid technology that we can pursue? We were able to get funding from the Mass CEC to study 2 potential sites, and we're going to try to get more to go bigger. We have 5 charging stations. That's a total of 18 ports currently in town. Is there a question? So those are like 90% paid for by National Grid when they had their EV charging station grid modernization program. And right now, all of those are free. And similar to Plymouth, we're looking at that in a economic development and come into town, have dinner, charge your car type of thing. They're also at the schools, the library, the rec center, and the town hall. Community aggregation has been a big effort by Steve and Debbie Cook, and our plan is stuck with Marshfield and Situate. We teamed up on this. Our joint plans are stuck at the DPU, which is very frustrating. And I think you'll hear more of that from one of the other towns. And then we're trying to get our arms around the data. How many electric vehicles are in town? How many backup generators? There is a social justice issue in our town. The people who have money have backup generation, and the people who can't afford it are the ones who are in the cold and in the dark when the lights go out, which happens a lot. So we're trying to figure out how to protect our most vulnerable. For this year, we're monitoring the Go Electric program. Debbie Cook is our lead on that. She is on the Alternative Energy Committee. Right now, we are only monitoring that for the town. We don't have permission to make it a town initiative yet, but we do have permission to monitor what the effort is and look at it as a potential opportunity for the town. And fortunately, Debbie, in her personal capacity, is helping us do that. We're looking at the town hall renovation as an opportunity to go net zero, to use better energy resources and efficiency. So we are providing an advisory role on that. We are pursuing grants, as I'm sure you all are, and the community solar, as I've already discussed. And we're very excited about electric buses. Our bus leases are coming due in 2 years, and so we're starting now to talk to capital planning and try to find the electric bus solution. And then we are, because of the frustration with having our lights go out and the power go out, and the problem that this is going to cause as people move to electric vehicles, we are, with funding voted during the town meeting this year in the budget, we are going to explore electric municipalization.
Wow.
So lots of efforts underway. I couldn't do it without my amazing committee. Everybody has taken on more than one initiative, and that has made us so strong. Everybody's very active, and basically the subcommittees work together to move things along, and then they give an update at our monthly Alternative Energy Committee meeting, which is on the second Thursday, generally the second Thursday of the month at 7:30. Visit our website. Brianna has been doing an amazing job for us, as have the rest of the committee members, but it's definitely helpful to have the town support.
Tanya, wonderful. I'm really happy that we're going to be televising this on Hull TV2 so we can share it with more people. Thank you. Does anybody have something they'd like to add about Cohasset? Debbie or Steve? Okay. Then I'd like to go on to Duxbury.
Hi.
Would you
Yeah.
like to speak up? And Susan was here. I don't know if she's still here.
I'd love to hear from Susan. I'll just be brief.
Introduce yourself first,
Sorry.
please.
I'm Valerie Massard. I'm the planning director in Duxbury, soon to be the town planner in Kingston.
Oh, really?
Yep. Our alternative energy committee really pressed the town and incentivized us to go ahead and apply for putting in some EV charging stations. And we were able to get that grant during COVID. Barbara Bartlett is our energy coordinator at the town, and she's just fantastic. And we are just about to power up the second set of stations by the pool. So we're excited. We have one at the town hall and one at the pool. And we hope to apply for another grant possibly this fall or in the spring. And we're looking at trying to go with a more energy planning approach at the town level, and the alternative energy committees changing chairs and revisiting their charge. We have 5 selectmen now, and lots of new faces coming into town hall to learn more about what's going on. So it's all good news in Duxbury.
Okay. Susan, are you still here? I don't know. Okay. So then I'll just give you a quick report from Hanson. Some of the people who thought they'd be here couldn't be, like Marianne Damaccio from Hanson. And they're working on a community choice aggregation that was approved at town meeting. And so that's where they're focusing right now. In Hanover, was Rick Bureau able to join us? No. And then on to Hingham.
Hi. 2 years ago, we founded Hingham Net Zero, Turner and I, who on this call, plus John Borger, who is not. And we have accomplished 2 things in the last 2 years. Turner, do you want to talk about the Climate Action Plan campaign?
Oh, no, Laura, you tell it.
What I can tell you, it was successful.
It was successful, but it took, so we, our first goal was that we, as Hingham Net Zero, thought the town needed a climate action plan, just like the state does. And we spent 1.5 years convincing the town that that was the case. It took 1 year longer than we'd hoped, which is kind of a large thing if you think we only have 10 years to get our act in order. But we did succeed at town meeting, and there will be a town committee to write a climate action plan. In the meantime, Hingham Net Zero will be looking for ways to do things that we know are going to be included in that climate action plan. Our other big goal for over the course of the last year was to elect someone to our light board, and we succeeded in that. So I am now on the light board. And the light plant has a lot of things really good things that are underway. Already underway, we've had some EV chargers coming in. Under the same grant program. For years, we've been working on trying to get some solar on our landfill, and it finally completed all its local permitting, and we're waiting on the state now, but we may get that started in the fall. The light plant has bought a battery, which it will be using for peak shaving to, they didn't buy it, I shouldn't say that. They've installed a battery which belongs to somebody else, and we have the right to use it to lower our peak usage and which will create savings for ratepayers. But it's kind of a pilot program. The chairman of our light board said, you know, we have lots of places in town where we could put batteries. And if this battery thing works out well, we should be looking for lots of other places to pair batteries with solar installations. So we have a fund of money available for climate programs, which were unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, the money came from selling Class 1 renewable energy credits that belong to the light plant and replacing them with Class 2 renewable energy credits. And whether that's a good idea or not is a long, complicated discussion for another time. But the result is that we have $1.3 million that the light board and the light plant wants to use for carbon reduction programs. So today they decided that we are going to be working with the schools in the town to look to evaluate all the roofs and all the parking lots that belong to the schools in the towns as potential solar installations. We're going to be moving forward with that right away. And then that's what they're doing. And my vision has to do with creating a large program that's based in the light plant. You could call it Electrify Hingham, Go Electric, whatever, but it's a sensible place to put it in our municipal light plant. And it would be a place, a website, staff members of the light plant where you can go learn everything that you might need to know in order to move away from fossil fuels in your own home or business. We would be tracking all the credits and the rebates and incentives that people are able to do. Hopefully have lists of contractors who can be trusted to install these technologies, and make it a place where we can publicize how to do this. And then Hingham Net Zero will work to publicize that in the community if this comes to pass. But that is just my goal, which I have not yet brought to the board, but that's what I'm hoping to do.
Excellent. Is there any, Turner, would you like to add anything about Hingham?
No, that's the whole story.
Okay.
The most exciting meeting of the light board that I've been to was really inspirational.
What I saw happening from outside is the fact that it took an extra year longer than you expected to bring this to town meeting, is that you got many people in the community organized, you know, holding signs out on the road. So it's not just 6 people, it's a community that's working together. It's wonderful. Yep. Okay, so
including people in Linden Pond,
which is where Turner and Joan live. Okay, so I'm going to go on to Hull. Debbie, did you have anything else you wanted to? We went past Cohasset. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Debbie Cook?
Oh, you mean about biochar?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I know you wanted me to talk about biochar.
I want to make sure that everybody on here knows what it is.
Okay, I will make a very brief statement. I've actually gotten quite involved. It's a huge international thing now, and actually Elon Musk, this is for carbon sequestration and also improving soils. And Elon Musk, for his X Prize, just did a sort of an examination of the 5 best ways that his X Prize, if you all know about that, are looking at as choices for sequestering carbon. And one of them was biochar. And he spent a lot of time talking about that as a great possibility. And actually England has just come forward and they have 24 initiatives.
Let me ask you a question. How many people listening to this know what biochar is? Okay, keep talking. Okay, go ahead.
So basically, I just wanted to say England now has 24 actions that they want to take to sequester biochar, and 8 of them, to sequester carbon, and 8 of them involve biochar. So it's really really being embraced all over the world, and hopefully. I've gotten involved with a.
Are you going to define it, or are you going to make me do it?
Oh, I thought everybody raised their hand. They knew what it was.
No, not everybody here knows what it is.
Oh, very quickly, it's almost pure carbon made by burning organic material, preferably something with a good cellular structure, preferably like wood or coconut husk. And what it is it's just very porous. So it's if you put it in the soil, it can hold massive amounts of water, it encourages microbial growth. And there's astonishing results about what it's done. As a matter of fact, oh my gosh, the tree company, the tree company that's around here that, you know, is the major tree company, they call it a miracle. And
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. How can people find you?
you can actually email me. You know what, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. If you want to get some, you can get some from Debbie, or you can find it online. Okay.
Or you can ask me any question about it, because it really is a miracle.
Debbie, I'd like to ask a question. Would you please?
Oh, yeah, Steve.
Would you please say a little bit about the Go Electric project that Marshfield and Situate and Cohasset are trying to get off the ground here?
Sounds a lot like what Laura's talking about. Yeah, I think it sounds very similar, Laura.
I swiped the idea from Electrify Arlington. Go check it out.
Oh, wow. Well, I've been thinking a lot about it myself. And so the three towns, the reason we got together was because we were involved with the electrical aggregation. We applied together. So, and the idea is the same thing as yours, is that we're going to be a very aggressive educational group and offer incentives and keep everybody apprised about all of the, you know, the incentives that are out there. But we also want to work with merchants and see if they will give discounts to the residents of these three towns. And to be honest with you, we were hoping down the road to expand it, but we wanted to get things off and felt, you know, could become unmanageable. But I think what you're talking about, Laura, and I think we should talk more about it, because it seems like some of the things that you're going to work on, there's a redundancy there. So,
okay.
We should talk.
I want to just make sure we keep moving along here. So Hall is next. So I'm Jake Valancourt, who I hope was going to be here tonight. Like Laura, we got the town to vote to develop a plan to get to 100% clean energy, and then Jake ran for the light board, and now he's on it and chair of that committee. And when I first met Jake, he attended a meeting planning, you know, going to town meeting, and he sat next to me and he introduced himself, and he said he was part owner and vice president of an national industrial recycling company. And I thought, what does that have to do with you know, saving electricity? But this guy is so well organized. He returns phone calls, and he has these brilliant ideas, and he pulls things off. Right now, he was out in California on business, learned about underwater generators that use tides. How this summer is going to have an experiment, you know, a test a tidal generator in Hull Gut, which has the potential for powering our current electrical load. His thought, which is a little bit similar to what you're thinking about, Laura, or other people have talked about, is to be in a position to generate electricity, you know, and in fact, to be able to sell it to other people. So that's one, and he is not a majority on our board yet. It means everybody coming out and supporting this idea so that enough people on the board vote to get there. So that's a little of what's happening here. Erwin Nessoff just joined that committee. So Erwin, can you say a little about your interests?
Well, I wanted to say that I'm on the planning board and put forward a proposal for a green building code, and that was passed unanimously at town meeting. So effective immediately, all new buildings in Hull, all commercial buildings and all residential buildings of 3 units or more must conform to green building codes. So that's big. We have a project coming up with 130 some odd apartments, and that will be the first building that will have to conform to green building standards.
Fantastic. We're going to go on to Marshfield. Marianne and Martin, I believe you're still here, but you're invisible. Can you come back and talk? Or when you know, yes, there you are. Okay, share your dinner with us.
We're going to turn it over to Matt Parent, who's head of our energy committee in town, and
Is
he's
he
on the
here?
call. Yeah, he's here. So we're going to let Matt do the talking.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt, for being here.
You're welcome. Hi, Judith. How are you?
I'm glad that you're here, Matt. Thank you.
Sure. I was a little late, so thank you for inviting me. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Please.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got a few things going on in town. I'll try to be brief. So we created an energy resilience plan a couple years ago, and we've started full force in trying to get to 100% clean energy by 2030.
Wow.
So we currently, as you may know, have a 5 megawatt system on the old landfill in town, and we're installing another 5 megawatt on the current transfer station landfill next year. The school board has approved to put solar on all the schools this past month. So by end of 2022, interconnection hopefully approved. We'll have solar on all the schools and carports. We're installing now solar at the new police station, the new DPW building, the new Council on Aging building, and as well as the largest user of energy in town, which is the wastewater treatment plant. So by the time it's all said and done, it'll be approximately 23 megawatts of solar installed in town by the end of 2023, which also generates about $2.3 million annually for the town for the next 25 years.
Wow.
So that's sort of the big push currently. It doesn't address necessarily a few other things, but we are addressing electricity as much as we possibly can. As we install solar, we're also installing EV charging stations at each of these locations that I had mentioned. So we should have between 10 to 15 level 2 EV charging stations installed during that time as well. The other things that we're working on is to work directly with the director of maintenance, Fred Russell. So every time a boiler needs to be replaced, or a heating system or a cooling system, we're switching it to heat pumps. We're doing that right now with Furnace Brook Middle School and Martinson Elementary. So that will be a nice thing to be able to switch over all of our heating systems to electric as they get outdated. That's kind of a big thing.
Yes.
As well as there's a small fire station that we're working on. Community choice aggregation is obviously a major frustration for Scituate and Cohasset. So we're all very frustrated with the DPU on this, and we don't know what to do. If anybody has any thoughts, we'll see what happens. Eventually that'll get approved. The other thing that we're working on in town is an environmental justice program with Marianne and Martin, reaching out to our local community who can't necessarily afford or have on their radar to increase efficiency, to switch from outdated boilers or are renting and maybe don't have control over that. So Eversource has a municipal environmental justice program. So we're reaching out to them on the English-speaking, Brazilian, Portuguese, and Spanish-speaking parts of the town to be able to do that. We were awarded a $25,000 grant to get more mass save audits and to get more efficiency in the town for low and affordable income housing. The other thing that I'm trying to convince, and the Energy Committee is trying to convince the police station to switch to hybrid police vehicles, because most of the time they sit idle and they spend $3,000 a year in gas, and they can save that amount of money, and it doesn't cost anything to switch from a gas police cruiser, a police interceptor, to a hybrid police interceptor because of the state rebate. So tell everyone in your town to do that because it's worth it if you haven't already. The town spends $200,000 a year in streetlights, and we're slowly moving in the direction of adding solar wherever we can on the streetlights as well. Last thought, which you had mentioned, Judith, is we're looking at tidal energy because we have excellent rivers and tides that really, go up and down quite a bit, and it's perfect for tidal energy. So I'm in the early stages of looking at that as well. So appreciate your time.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm so glad other people are going to have a chance to see this. Looking forward to sharing it with people. Let's see. Plymouth, you ready to go, Patrick? Is Margie here?
I don't see her. So we've talked about this. I've presented this before this group in the past at Plymouth back in 2017. Started the municipal aggregation program. Through that first 3-year contract, the town saved about $7 million. And last year, right before COVID hit, we had signed another contract for another 3 years, beginning of October of 2020. And we, our first contract was at 10.333 cents per kilowatt hour. Now we're at 9.807 cents per kilowatt hour. So we went almost half a penny, which is great. So the new thing with this contract is now we have an option for 100% renewable energy. And it's still under 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So it averages out to about like 50 to 60 cents a month more to go with 100% green energy. And that's our big news.
That is huge news. You're going to make a lot of people envious.
So what we're trying to, I think what we're going to do is on the next contract is probably swap it around so that the 100% renewable energy or green energy product will be the default, and residents can opt out of that or opt into the standard rate. So we can get more people on the 100% green energy product.
Wow. Do you want to mention anything right now about what you're doing with promoting community gardens?
Well, actually, it's not really community gardens. We're actually moving forward with a civic agriculture program. How about we wait till the next meeting? What I'll do is I'll put some slides together.
Perfect. That's great.
I'll put a presentation together.
Okay. Ross, would you like to tell us what's happening in Quincy? Patrick, thank you so much.
I will try to give you a quick summary here. Well, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, bear with me. I'm just going to pull up my document here. Okay. Judith, you had asked me to bring someone along who knew something about the transportation in Quincy, the situation. I don't have such a person. Pardon my background noise. But we did on April 28th, the Quincy Climate Action Network sponsored a lecture along with the Thomas Crane Library and the transitmatters.org group, who are more of a regional organization. And they gave us a nice seminar on electrification of the grid and of both the subway and the commuter rail system. And that was interesting. We are working hard at trying to get the MBTA. The MBTA will be building a new bus garage in Quincy, and we're trying to get them to go not just to their diesel hybrids, but to all electric buses. And helping us with that is David Reich, who is a former member of QCAN, and especially a lot of help from Larry Cretion, who is the executive director of Green Energy Consumer Network. He has been really pushing for electric buses and is a great resource as we try to put pressure on the MBTA to make a local bus garage that can take all electric buses. Past accomplishments, we have solar on 13 schools, about 2 megawatts worth of power on those schools, and with current efforts to put more solar on municipal buildings as they are being built. Our green municipal aggregation energy program is on track. We are shooting for 10% additional renewables with no cost higher than the National Grid regular rate. We do not have any price information yet because we're currently waiting for approval from the Energy Department in Massachusetts, and we won't be able to negotiate for prices or have a quote until we get to that point. Quincy Climate Action Network is prepared to participate and lead the educational and campaign for the public to get people to opt in. We will have an option for 50% and 100% renewables. That will cost more than probably the regular rate.
I highly recommend talking with Patrick Farah to get a little more about how he's worked on municipal aggregation in Plymouth.
Well, I'm very interested in how they got 100% rate with what, Patrick,
Right.
Are you getting it without a cost higher than your standard rates there?
Get him on the phone. I'll send you his phone number afterwards.
Well, that's fine, that's great. Yeah, but we're as premature in that we aren't at a point yet where we can negotiate for these gains. I want to make a plug for cities and towns to hire an energy manager. We, and again, this is largely through the efforts of the Quincy Climate Action Network as members of the mayor's Climate Change Commission, which we are on. We hired an energy manager. Her name is Shelley Dean, and she has multiple times her salary saved money in the town, to say nothing of the reduction in emissions. Currently, she has been negotiating to improve the new police and safety building that's going into town. They have a garage for some 100+ vehicles for the police and others. At first, they were going to put one charging station in, just one charging station. She has negotiated up to getting 30 charging stations now, with conduits for many more in the future. She has had a major input in improving the energy efficiency for new buildings, and she's been really tight on the schools and getting them to be upgraded to be more energy efficient. She makes a huge difference. And again, I want to emphasize that you can save money and greatly reduce your emissions if you hire an energy manager. It's really terrific. One final thing, back in 2019, QCAN was able to initiate an effort where we were able to teach each of the 32 sixth grade classes a one-class session on climate change. And we were successful that we were able to do it, but unfortunately our members who were the volunteers did not have all the right preparation and background for giving these lectures. And as a result, we have not been invited back. And after much thinking and agonizing over it, we've decided that we probably don't have the resources to come up to the standards of the Quincy public school system. So what we have decided to do is to go to the group Change is Simple. They are a not-for-profit, professionally led group up in, I think, Beverly, and they use college volunteers to create programs all the way from 3rd grade up through senior high school to teach students about climate change. And a couple of years ago, I asked them for a quote, and for about $7,000 or $8,000, they could give one class to each of our 6th grade classes. So we should be able to get a grant to hire them to do that and get a really professional job. And at the same time, put in a little section where we advertise how the Quincy Climate Action Network is it's a good example of a grassroots local organization, and give them a little civic lesson along with a climate change lesson. But that's what we've been up to in Quincy over the last couple of years.
Very impressive, Ross. Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Again,
you.
I'm so glad we'll be able to share some of this. Sharon, Paul Lowenstein.
Yeah, I will report, we already have the community aggregation going. It took effect last March. Seems to have gone down very smoothly. We have a 100% option. I think the default is around 30% or so. It's quite a bit higher than the state standard of 18%. We're in the process of building some what are they called? The canopies, solar canopies over some of the parking lots. We're going to put a major solar installation on the landfill, including a battery. And I would encourage everyone to watch a really good video about what the town of Sterling did with a municipal battery. It's about a 10-minute video, and it's really well done. It's very compelling. It explains how a battery can save, it's saving this small town of 8,000 residents in central Mass about $400,000 a year, and explains how they do it. So it's on YouTube. If you just Google Sterling Municipal Battery, you should find it pretty quickly. The other innovative thing that Sharon did last fall at town meeting was we passed a 3-year moratorium on an artificial turf athletic field that they wanted to build in connection with this $163 million high school. A plastic athletic field has about 40 tons of plastic in it. So, you know, not only are we fighting pollution and climate change, but we're also worried about filling our oceans up with plastic. This plastic is non-recyclable. It lasts about 8 or 10 years. And when it's worn out, they roll it up and put it in a landfill that has rolls of artificial turf as far as the eye can see. It's really disgusting. So, and the stuff has PFAS in it too. And then we're going to build this right near a town well. So we at least got a 3-year moratorium on that. And we're at the same time, we've hired an international consultant who's really knowledgeable about improving natural grass athletic fields. So we're not only saying no, but we're saying yes to natural grass athletic fields. So I just want to throw that out there that we succeeded in passing that moratorium. That's the news from Sharon. Thank you.
That's pretty useful, the natural grass information. Thank you. Weymouth with a big W. Okay, the last, the end of the alphabet here.
Right.
Thank you for being patient. And Bob O'Connor, can you lead off? And then Owen, I want to talk to you about transportation.
You want me to go first,
Yes,
Judith?
please.
Okay. So going last, gave me the opportunity to find out, you know, how far behind we may be in some of these areas, because everybody else seems to be doing so many good things, but we'll get there too. We just completed conversion of all of our 4,000 streetlights to LED fixtures. So we expect a savings there of several $100,000 a year. So, we just, with this most recent award of Green Community Money, we just passed $1.2 million from that program, basically with lights in all of our town buildings, energy management systems, in some of the big buildings, and weatherization in about half the town buildings. So money well spent there, and it was a good program. The municipal aggregation, we had a couple of discussions on that before COVID. And then during COVID, an additional typical meeting like this, a Zoom. The mayor is for it. He's trying to work his magic on our town council to buy into it, but we'll see how that goes.
Excuse me. you are a city, so a lot of people, when you said town council, they're thinking of a lawyer, but town council is actually a whole group of people in Weymouth.
It's 11 councilors. We are unique, I guess. Maybe there's one other.
You're a city.
We are a town with a city form of government, a mayor and 11 councilors, but we are the town of Weymouth. So thanks for pointing that out. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Our EV program, we have 5 leases currently going on. 3 of them the schools bought into, which was great. And naturally, for those charging stations, we had 1 charging station for all 5 vehicles at Town Hall until today, when construction started through a grant program. But now we have at 2 park locations, we have a total of 8 heads going in for not for free though. They're for profit for us, but for the town. So, and we have started discussions on canopy. Hi, Owen. We have to start discussions on canopy, parking lot, solar canopies. We tried looking at rooftop units, but there were only 2 buildings in town whose roofs would accommodate a solar array. They were both schools, and the school committee declined, at the time that we presented our case, declined to accommodate us. We'll revisit that after the election in the fall. So for right now, that's it.
Fantastic, Bob. And I hope that this meeting has been useful to you in terms of.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Owen, tell us what your job is.
Well, it has a lot of elements to it, and what pertains to the topic at hand is or a few things. There some of the developments, the larger ones, will require special permit with order of conditions, and we work on it incrementally to try and encourage alternative forms of transportation. Require sidewalks to be put in if there were none there before, and spaces for bicycles, and an occasional charging station. We haven't been able to get too many of them in so far. The town has 3 commuter rail stations, and has zoning set up to encourage transit-oriented developments, dense residential locations and mixed-use locations near the stations, a couple of which are already completed and occupied. Others are well under construction, some in the early stages of it, some near completion. And once again, in the process of getting those developed, we try to get facilities done, such as sidewalks, and in some cases connections to the station or to an adjacent park, something like that, to encourage walking and biking. Town has a street. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judith.
After this meeting, I'd like to be able to talk with you to give you some idea of what I'm thinking about as zero emissions transportation, and see if there's some kind of a process that we can think through that would help communities think it through. And I appreciate very much that you've come forth so that we can work together. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, super. And because right now we're at the very, very beginning, like the egg stage of something, okay? And we'll see if it grows into anything bigger. So on our schedule, we're getting near the end. That was the discussion having to do with transportation. There are a couple of other people that I'm hoping to work with. And the National Solar Tour was on the list here. Last year, I worked hard on it. But this year, there aren't a lot of incentives out there for people to go to solar. So we thought we should work on lining up those incentives and then maybe participate in the solar tour next year. If you have any different thoughts on that, I'm open to them, but kind of passing on it for this year as of the moment. And the next meeting, usually we have quarterly large meetings. 350 Mass meets every other week, so there's an opportunity to talk, you know, on little things more often. But I thought it would be awfully nice if we could have an outdoor meeting where we can actually see each other and talk personally, one-to-one on another. And I'd like to offer my front yard. In the invitation to this meeting, there was a little tiny picture of where I live. I live right on the bay, and I've got a fire pit. I looked around, I think I could come up with about 24 chairs, and we could sit outside, little bug spray maybe, and have a big screen so we could have that part of talking too. Does that appeal to you? Do you like the idea? Any reactions? We've had group meetings at churches. We've had an outdoor meeting at the Wildlands Trust Pavilion down in Plymouth. Would you like to come here? We'd start with a potluck and then have a meeting.
I'm a fan of the virtual meetings just because of the expediency of it.
Okay, so you'd like to stick with this.
I like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to make this meeting if it wasn't virtual.
Okay, it sure is easy. It doesn't mean I have to clean up anything.
I find that I get to more meetings if they're virtual.
Okay,
If
fantastic.
they're not, then some meetings just fall off my list because I can't make it.
I like this, it's easy. So the date that we're looking at is the 5th Monday in August. The idea is that not too many committees meet on the 5th of whatever, and the person who would normally be here from Situate works on Tuesday nights. So does the 5th Monday of August look like a possibility for you? Nod your head if it is. Yeah. I've got some, okay. Does 5th Monday just not work for you? If it doesn't work, then you just go like this, and I know.
Is that August 30th?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay.
Okay. That's the end of our meeting. We've got a date for the next meeting. Owen, you and I are going to talk again. And
Okay.
we covered some incredible stuff. The next thing for me is to make sure that this information gets to every South Shore community. You know, about half of us were here and half weren't. So we can do that through Hull TV2 and through my just talking with people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will linger a while if anybody wants to pick things out of the chat while the recording converts to storage.
Thanks,
Bye.
Judith. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Judith.
Thank you. Good night.
Great meeting. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you, Judith.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for being here.
Good night, Debbie.
Oh, and looking forward to getting to know you.
Okay. Talk to you. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you. Do you know how to leave? There's a little place to click. There you go. And Clayton, it's so nice to see you again.